Scott, one of the things, now I don't think you're necessarily going to remember this, to be honest, but a bit of an anecdote about the first time we ever touched base, right? And I think this is relevant to feedback informed treatment and the training that is coming up. But the first time we ever had some communication, you wrote a piece that, gosh, I'm paraphrasing here, so sorry if I'm butchering it, just about some of the assumptions that we have in therapy, right? And one of the assumptions there was that if we change thoughts, very particular thoughts, that there is research out there that irrefutably shows us that it changes other things like in emotions and behavior. Now, as a CBT therapist, I emailed you and I said, there's a lot of evidence for CBT, and you had a lovely reply back to me and said, yes, that is absolutely true, but I just want to kind of lay it out for you. In what world have we ever pulled out a thought out of someone's brain and then kind of seen the linkage? And it was just a really, really nice moment that on the other side of the world, you bothered to respond to that.
Mm,
What I
mm,
reflect about that moment is it started building an alliance between us, although not a clinic therapeutic one, but some kind of bond, no matter how small. And I think that part of that is because you were non-defensive, right? You were open to what I was saying. You didn't throw back at me a list of citations. And even though you were telling me your wisdom, it felt collaborative even in the email, right? And that was
mm,
maybe eight
mm,
years ago. And
mm.
I guess what I want to kind of ask about that is that within feedback informed treatment, particularly, I think that stance is central to it. The client can ask anything or observe anything or give feedback to anything. And, we would probably call that the culture of feedback. I wonder if you can comment a bit, not so much on that email if you don't remember that, but about how we can foster a culture of feedback for our clients to feel safe, to tell us more about what's going on for them, and to adapt treatment so that they end up getting better results.
Well, I appreciate your sharing that story with me. I have a stance, and I think it's mostly because of my own needs and desires. When I'm asking a question, rarely am I trying to make a point.
Mhm.
I'm interested in knowing what this other person thinks and knows that I might benefit from. It is possible to distinguish in trainings when somebody is raising their hand to make a point, and simply because their voice goes up at the end, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a question. But I try to treat all of those as if they're true curiosity about the subject matter, because that is what is fundamental to a good conversation, an exchange of ideas. And I think that if I have your ideas in addition to mine, well, then I have a certain power and ability and skill that I might not have otherwise. I don't think this is any different than what I try to do in a therapy context. And personally, and I'm not sure it's the same in Australia and elsewhere as it is in the United States, but most conversations, or many, I would say nowadays, are fraught with, let me tell you what the answer is to your question. And I would like to say, can we talk about that, please? Let me give you an example from my past, and it's a story I wrote about in a book I did about a certain time in my life a few years ago. It goes all the way back to when I was 8 or 9, and my family were regular churchgoers. I was sitting in a Sunday school class and being told the story. I can still remember the person who was teaching the class, lovely human being. Anyway, the story was Jonah and the whale, and I listened intently. And of course, it's a story about faith and trusting God. In my household, my father was an educator, and at that time we didn't have the internet. We had what were called the World Book encyclopedias. I think there were 20 plus volumes that had the entire human knowledge base in them. The next Sunday, I took volume W to Sunday school class, and I asked the teacher to show me where in the well Jonah had lived.
Mm.
And I didn't get an exactly positive response. What I got was, well, no, I didn't say whale. I said big fish. I'm pretty sure she said whale. And then I said, what kind of fish? Now, the question asker was an 8-year-old kid, an 8-year-old me. It wasn't trying to make a point. It wasn't trying to disprove the existence of God or even that Jonah had been swallowed by a whale. It was trying to understand the story, the specifics of the story. And it's the same thing in psychotherapy with clients, with colleagues. Try to hear those questions, open up to those questions, because that's the foundation of an effective conversation. Both people go away thinking, wow, affected by the conversation in a way that wants them to be together, to join together.